Okay, so let's talk about tools then. And these are the 3 tools that I teach in the course and that we'll touch on in this webinar. So at the core of it is EndNote. Now, EndNote is a system that you can buy a license for. And unfortunately, certain at WITS, I don't think they've made student free licenses available yet, which I think I think they should be doing that. But if you've got it, you bought it, whatever the case may be, I had to buy it. I do not regret 1 cent of what I spent on it because it saved me hours and hours and hours, and ultimately time is money. And who wants to, spend money on a degree, getting a degree, and then you don't get it because you just weren't organized around your references, etc. And to be honest with you, you will fail. Examiners will fail you if your referencing is not up to scratch. It's one of those things that they just will not compromise on. So EndNote is the system where you load all your references in. So let's say you find a PDF, and when you're navigating around the academic databases, I don't want you to stress too much about how those academic databases talk about, citations and referencing and all the rest of it on that system. I'm going to teach you a trick from Google Scholar that bypasses all of that stuff. All that you need from those academic databases is the PDF, okay, the source document. Now, instead of just loading that onto your PC and leaving it in a folder, I want you to get it into EndNote, right? And once you've got it in EndNote, you will then tell EndNote the fields about that document. Now, EndNote is meant to be able to pick it up from the PDF. It depends on whether that PDF has been created in a way that EndNote can read it. And I didn't have very much success with that. What I had success with was my Google Scholar hack, which I will teach you just now. And the Google Scholar hack is that the metadata. So remember what we said, you've got your PDF is your content that you want to talk about in your writing. You put that in EndNote, and then you have to load the metadata. Now, by all means, you can go and type that in. Again, that's taking time. Rather let the tools work for you. And I used Google Scholar to do that. Okay, so what have we spoken about so far? EndNote is your database of PDFs and sources. You need to load the metadata about each of those, or EndNote can pick it up automatically, either from the PDF itself, or EndNote has access into those academic databases and it can go look for it itself and bring it in. I also couldn't get that integration right, and I'm reasonably technical, so I also wouldn't waste too much time on that. I would use the hack that I give you in this webinar and that I go into more detail in the course. Okay, then you've got Word. And Word is obviously, like we were talking about just now, where you're doing your writing and you have to then create a little plugin. And it's not too difficult. I show you in the course, but you create a plugin, and in Word, you will see on the menu, just where you do all your other formatting, you'll see an EndNote little button. And if you're in the discipline, like I said with Moretla just now, if you're in the habit and the discipline of citing as you write and thinking about sources and referencing as you write, then you just click that button when you want to include a source. You can actually search in your source library from that button. You don't go into EndNote. You stay in Microsoft Word, and you click a button, and it inserts the citation in your paragraph, and it adds that item to your reference table at the end. Okay. Laja says EndNote allows you to use pulp. You can add it. There's a tutorial video on the UP library on how to add pulp. Okay, great. So go and look at these tutorials. Go and look on your university websites. Your universities need to be providing you with these tools, and ask librarians and ask people for help as you go. And today, hopefully, we'll just give you the confidence and the ideas and the tips and tricks, for you to make decisions about what tools you use and how you use them. Okay, Moretla, let's talk about what's your view on referencing from websites. Sometimes there isn't an authored reference. Okay, good point. So, I mean, in my PhD, I referenced a couple of blog articles, but the context of referencing that type of material is one in which you must acknowledge that it is secondary research. Okay. So if you're referencing a news article or somebody's blog, that is secondary research. Wikipedia is secondary research. And the context of your paragraph and your thought process when you cite that article or that website must acknowledge that. You will be penalized for citing that if your context assumes that it is primary research, or if it adds more to your research than it does. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with bringing a blog article in, or YouTube or website, whatever the case be. That's absolutely fine, but it's secondary. It can be very useful for the reader to get the extra context of that secondary research, but don't rely on it as much as you would primary research, where the author of the study and the work that was done to do the research generated and gathered and analyzed the data by them in their work. That's called primary research. When the person writing and doing the research actually gathers the data themselves. If somebody else has written about that study, i.e. on a blog, that thing is secondary research. Wikipedia is secondary research. On a Wikipedia article, you'll find a list of references at the bottom. So my advice to you was, use Wikipedia to understand broadly a topic, but then go and look at the references at the bottom of the Wikipedia article and go to the primary research. Go and find where they got their information from. You'll have to do a little bit more legwork, but that's why I say we're in the role of rigorous academic research. We're not in the realm of recycling articles and blogs and all the rest of it. So Moretla, hopefully that was useful for you. Use Wikipedia and websites with a healthy dose of caution. I would say you have to have 80% primary research references in your study, but by all means you can also refer or reference secondary research as well. Okay.